In this session, we're going to be dealing with these topics you see listed here. First of all, the data entry form, and then I'll give you an example of that as well. So I have a PowerPoint that goes through each step, and you'll be able to download that PowerPoint as well as the Excel spreadsheet from our course website. Then we're going to deal with graphing data, autofill, searching the workbook, search and replace in the workbook, and format painter, filtering and sorting data, and some more items, and then freeze panes. So let's get started with the Excel entry forms. Now, an entry form is very handy, especially when you have the situation where the screen is not showing all of your columns when it's very wide, and sometimes also when it's very deep. So let's take a look at this method. This is also another way of helping someone who is not familiar with Excel to enter data in your spreadsheets. So you may have someone in the law firm that is good at typing, good at data entry, but not very good at Excel. And how to figure out how to put the data into the worksheet could be a problem for them. So a form can be very helpful in that regard. And as I said, it's also a very good method of data entry for a spreadsheet that is wide, and so you don't have to, so you can avoid the horizontal scrolling. So we're going to get into how to first turn your data into an official Excel table, because in order to use forms, you have to convert the data into an Excel table. And the way you do that, in the first step, is to click inside any of the cells that contain the data, not on the headings, but inside where the data is located. So like, for example, here, I would type in row 4, and I could type in column A or column B, any of those cells that have data in them before I do this next step. Once I've done that, I'm in the data with on one of the cells. I then press Control and the T key. So on your keyboard, there's a key called CTRL. Usually it's on the left-hand side of the keyboard, in the lower left-hand corner. There's sometimes keyboards have two of them, one in the lower right-hand corner. Anyway, you hold down the Control key and you press the letter T. Once you do that, you'll see this Create a Table menu pop up. And it's going to say, where is the data for your table? If you had clicked properly inside of the table data, the spreadsheet data, it's going to put the proper area that will be considered a table for you. Now, it can expand, and it will expand if you add more rows by entering data, but this is the initial values that are put in there, or locational values, we'll put it that way. And you also want to make sure that you have headers. In other words, make sure there's a check mark there, and make sure that you have, on this example, row 3 has got the categories for the data. These are called a header row. And once you've made sure of all that, you click OK. And we're just going to go with the default value that we see here, and so we click OK. Now, if it comes up that it doesn't have the right parameters there for your table, then something's messed up. Maybe you've got an empty row or an empty column, and you need to get rid of those before you continue. Otherwise, you just click OK. Now, what it will do is apply the standard or default table formatting to your table, which it has done in this case. So you can see it be transformed. You get these little arrows in your header row that enable you to sort and filter your data. We'll get to that in a little bit. But in any case, you should see something like this, and it'll extend all the way down in your table. And usually the default format for a table, the shading and everything is okay, but sometimes you might want to change the way the table looks. So I usually will go to format under design. I go to when I'm clicked inside the table, I'm going to go up to custom, and I'm going to probably pick light and just take out any of the fancy colors and things like that for the table. That's up to you though. And once you have done that, you will see that you do not have usually the form tool on your ribbon bar. You're not going to see the form tool. It's not a common used tool for beginners or people that use Excel a lot. A lot of them don't know about it, and Microsoft does not put an icon for that tool on any of your ribbons. So you're going to have to add it to your ribbon, and to do that, you just go up to your ribbon area, right button click, and usually you can say customize, or there's a little arrow here on your quick access toolbar, a little arrow that points down. Just click there, and then come down to where it says more commands, and click on there. When you do that, you'll get a listing of what are called the popular commands. It's not going to be the form tool is not going to be a popular command, so you're going to have to change that from popular command, and you're going to click here, this little arrow, and you're going to go up to commands not in the ribbon. Since you don't see it in your ribbons, go there, and then you're going to scroll down to where you will find the form. So you take this elevator bar here, just scroll down until you see the form tool. So it's what I've done here. I've scrolled down, and there I see the form tool. So I click on it, and then I click add, and it's going to put it on my quick access toolbar. So I just click there, add, and you'll see it appear in this list. So once you're done with that, and you make sure you see it there, you can come back to your spreadsheet. And once you get back there, you're going to see in your quick access toolbar an icon that looks like this up here. I've got a rectangle around it to help you focus on it. And it looks like a little form, a little tiny icon there for form. So then you're going to go there, and you're going to click on that icon, and it's going to pop up the form. So now I should have said, before you actually click on that tool, make sure that your cell selection is one of the cells in your table. Make sure you're clicked down in there. I forgot to tell you that. So before you click on the form tool, like I just told you to do, make sure that you're somewhere inside your table. Click in there, or else it'll come up with an error, and it won't show this a form. So this is a form automatically created for you for data entry and data discovery, for data editing, for data deletion, so on and so forth. So you can see the menu that you've got here. We'll go through this in a minute. But if you want a new record or a new row of data, you're going to click New. If you have a row that you are on that you want to delete, you pick Delete. It'll delete all the data out of that row. If you want to find something, we'll get to that in a moment. You're going to click here, Find Next. If you're finding the same, like say James has got a name in there and you want to keep finding other Jameses, whatever, you'd pick Next to find his name. But before you can use these to find, you're going to click on the criteria option, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But and then when you're done using the form, you click Close. So here I clicked first on the New option, so I clicked on New, and then I type in the data, and once you get your data typed in the way you want it to appear in the row, the new row, you're going to hit enter. And then this data, once you hit enter, is going to appear as a new data row in your table. So you can see it did it here. So you can scroll down through the table with this option here. So if you don't see the row you're looking for because you want to edit it, you can use the elevator bar, scroll up and down, and as you scroll, the data in here will change and show you what row you are on. And then once you get to that row, you can go and edit something. So you can use the scroll arrow to scroll to what you want to edit, and then you can make your change on that particular row. Like so here I'm typing it was prep, but it should have been prep info or whatever. So I type that in there, and then I press enter, and it will update that information. You can also search using the criteria button. So here's your criteria button. So I click on, I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And now I want to look for, say, a person by the name of James. So I just type his name in there. And then after you've done that, you can hit the enter key, and it will go and find that particular person's name and put the data there. And then you can edit it and change it. This is a record for James is SEO. And then you could pick find next if you have more Jameses. So to toggle between that criteria searching and the actual entry form, you need to click back on the criteria button because it's like an off and on switch, a toggle button. So just click there when you're done searching for something, and you want to just use it as a form to find not necessarily to find things now, but to change the data. So let's say I want my dates to be between these two dates, and someone is typing in a wrong date. I can use something called data validation in this table, so that that an error message will come up if they type in a date outside of that data range. All right. So let's see how we do that. We put in the start. These are the start date and the end dates, and we want this to be the requirement that the dates that are entered in this particular field has to be between these two dates. So what we'll do is see when we've used data validation and they try to put in a wrong date, then it's going to come up with an error message. Please input between 19 and 20. So here's what happens if you use data validation for a field and you've put into the data validation field an error message that tells the person entering the data that the dates must be whatever. So you can use also in your work with the forms, you can use the greater than and less than sign. So if you click criteria and you're wanting to find revenue that's greater than 500, you could type that in and hit enter. You could also use the less than sign and so on, and you can use wildcards as well. So that's the PowerPoint that I've uploaded that you can download and go through that process. Let's actually go to an Excel form and work with it here. So here is my entry form. I'm going to put an entry form in here. This is a spreadsheet that's been converted to a table. Now remember, the way I did it, I clicked inside my data, I did Control T, and I made this all a table. Another way of doing it is you can go up to Insert, and then it's grayed out now because this is a table, but you could click there, and then it would, if you're clicked inside your data, it will convert it to a table for you. So here we are in our table. Now, I need to use the form icon And I've already added it here. So I added it to form. Now, how did I do that? Again, the way I edited it, I clicked on customize. I went down to more commands, and I went instead of to popular commands. Now I've got it already there. Commands not in the ribbon. It's in the ribbon, but if I go to all commands, and then I would just cursor. It takes it a second to display them all. There they go. I would just cursor down to the form area, and you'll see it in here. There it is. And then just click add. I've already added it, so I'm not going to try to add it again, but that's the way you would add it in there. But I already have it, so I'm going to go up to my quick access toolbar here, click on form, and it comes up and it gives me the options to change the data if I want to. See, I'm already clicked in this row, so it brings that up. And if I just want to go to the next record, the next row, I click find, go to the next record, and it will just keep on going down through my next record. If I want to use criteria, I can go in here and I can say I want to find this is like a library database. I want to find a study east. That's for location. And then go ahead and hit enter, and it comes up with the first item with study east. And then I could change the data and so on. If I want to add a new record, first of all, I want to click on criteria, go back to form, and let's say I want to add a new record. All right, so I type in my data, and whatever it is, I don't want to add it to this database here, the spreadsheet, but you just type it in and hit enter, and it adds it to the end of at the bottom of the database. It puts it down at the bottom. So that's the forms. Now, if you want to use data validation, like in the situation, so the person has to put in between certain dates and so on. So if I added a date column, I could do that. But the way you do the data validation is clicking anywhere in your database or your spreadsheet, click data, and then you would go over to the data validation option here and click down on data validation, and then what is it that you want to allow or not allow, and so on. So here's settings, allow any value, or you can say I just want to, if depending on what column you're in, say you wanted to say a date, and then you want it between certain dates, you could put in the dates here, and as I showed you in the PowerPoint, and that way the person's required to put in the proper dates. Okay, or if it's something else like yes or no, they have to put in yes or no answer, or they have to put in an X or a 0, whatever it is. You can do your data validation on whatever category you're wanting to enter that on. So that's the long and short of your entry forms. And go back to our menu, we'll come down to graphing our data. Okay, so graphing is pretty simple in Excel. There are some exceptions, but basically you're going to be creating a chart. You're going to select the data for the chart. So if we want a chart out of this data here, just kind of highlight all that. And then once you've got it, you can go up to your insert option, and you come over to recommended charts. And I do, even for those who are intermediate and advanced folks, you get kind of used to using graphs and charts a lot. I always like to see what the recommended chart is for the data that I've chosen, to see if I agree with it or not. But so I go over here and I click recommended charts, and it's going to come up in this particular situation. It does recommend like a clustered column chart. It's used to compare values across a few categories. Use it when the order of categories is not important. So in this case, if you look at the data, it's kind of like nonsense data there. Last name, first name. I just typed in some things, and then we're typing in numbers for January, February, and March. So to it, as if you look at his to its data, he has been compared here to the others and util and so on and so forth. Now that may not be the best one for this, so let's come down and take a look at this particular option. It's different, and here's a stacked area, and this one here is your basically a line chart. And so you can kind of go through all these are the recommended um, charts that they're suggesting to us here. All right, so depending on your data, you might agree with these, but let's go to all charts and say, well, maybe what we want to do is do a pie chart. Let's see what that looks like. That might be a better option. And then you've got your different types of charts, pie charts that are available here as well to look at. And then you have your surface charts, radar charts, tree map charts, sunburst charts. So a lot depends on what data you've selected. I'm going to cancel this, and I want to go back over to my data. What if I just pick, let's say I just want to pick these two and compare like the January amounts. So I could just do that. And then go back up and do a recommended chart. And, you know, clustered column makes a lot of sense when you're just comparing a couple like that. But if I just wanted to, say, compare each one of these, and then do my recommended chart again, I get this kind of a description, which is pretty interesting because it shows you the difference in sales in January, February, and March for these individuals. And it looks like, for example, now I didn't include the labels up here. And that's another thing to keep in mind when you're wanting to compare like months like that. You'd want to probably make sure that you put in your your January, February, March to give it the color coding for those particular areas. But you can see this makes a lot of sense where you've got the name of the person underneath the chart, and you can see that in February, Intuit has done a really good job, but in other months he's not been doing very well. So it helps you say, well, I wonder what's going on in February for this fellow compared. I want to get him doing whatever he's doing in February and get him to do it for the other months as well. So it's that kind of analysis that the charts and graphs help you to get about with your data. Trend lines, if you select a chart and then select design, you can add a chart element. You can select trend line and then select the type of trend line you want, such as linear, exponential, linear forecast, or moving average. So for example, here's a chart where I added the trend line in that particular chart. And again, if you pick on any of the charts, sometimes the trend lines are going to be relevant to that kind of data, but you just go up under your design option, up on your menu, and once you go to your chart design, you can go up here and you can add your trend lines. You can switch rows and things of that kind as well. So, and you can add chart elements on the options that you have here. So, just keep that in mind when you're working with the charts. All right, so I'm going to go back to our menu of options here, graphing your data. We'll go to Autofill. Now, Autofill It's a pretty simple thing, but a lot of people that are using Excel for a long time aren't aware of it. Instead, what they'll do is copy and paste. So, for example, if we want to autofill some data here, we have a formula in this particular spreadsheet that is subtracting the dates to get the total number of days between the beginning of a project that someone that of a case, the number of days a case took to complete. So here's your start date and your finish date, and these are just dates. And now the formula is subtracting C from C3 B3. So here's your C3, your finish date, the larger number, and then your the date that was started. You're subtracting that from it. So that's your formula. It's not a real complicated one. And what you could do is just right button click, and you could copy it. And you come down here, and you could right button pick, and you can paste it. And then it, of course, when you copy a formula from one place to another, Excel is aware of where you're pasting it to. So it notice it updated the rows that because it's now in the fourth row, so it automatically changed the row, which is great, because you can just copy and paste. But let me undo that. Instead of that, when it's the same formula you want for all of the rows, instead of just copy, paste, 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 you can just grab this little handle here and drag it down, and then it automatically will, as you can see, change the formula all the way down. That's a very handy, quick way of auto-filling some information, a formula with information in it. Okay. Now, searching in the workbook. Let's go here. So here we have a lot of data in this library database or spreadsheet, and we want to actually search through all the information for a particular, say, author in this case. So we'll do Control F, which brings up our Find and Replace option. So if you're just wanting to find something, we'll go ahead, and it doesn't matter where you are on the workbook. It's going to do a search through the spreadsheet, and we'll say we want to look for Alcott. So we'll type in Alcott, and then we'll say Find Next, and it would go right to that row, 24. Now you notice you have options here. So within the sheet, well, what if you want the whole workbook? You need to change it to the workbook. So it searches through the whole workbook. I have a number of worksheets in this workbook, and if I'm wanting to find all the locations of Alcott, I want to make sure it goes through the whole workbook. And I want to search by row or look in formulas. I'm not really wanting to look in formulas, but if I did, I want to make sure that was there. Or you can just change that to values. I'm not going to change it right now because it doesn't really matter in this particular case, but I did want to show you that option. You can also tell it to match case or match the entire cell contents, which then it wouldn't be because we'd have Alcott, comma, Kate, and so on. So anyway, those are some of the options that you have for searching. So now if I search for Alcott and I could find next, it's going to go through the spreadsheet and find them all. You can see it hopping down there. If instead of that I want to find all of them, I go here, and now let me open this up and show this to you. So now it went through the whole workbook, and it found on this particular sheet called Margie, it found all of these locations for Alcott, but it didn't stop there. It went to the location, notice down here, location worksheet, and it looked there for Alcott and found Alcott there. It found on pivot by author, it found the author there, And so it found all of them. And then you can go to any one of these, just click on that option, and it will go to that worksheet in the workbook and to that particular location. So very handy way to search through the whole database for various types of information. Now, I'm going to go back to the main worksheet here. And if I do Control F now, I also have the option of replacing. So if I click on replace, now let's say that I have misspelled something on my spreadsheet. And so I want to find, or it could be a formula. If you're wanting to search inside a formula, maybe the formula's got a wrong number in it. Maybe it's got a wrong calculation. You want to change the calculation. So you can find whatever kind of information you want and replace it. So if I wanted to say I have, there's an entry here for Alan, and maybe the name should have been Elaine, I can go ahead and say find and replace, and just go through the whole workbook, or I can just go through the sheet here and search by my rows. If I was looking in formulas, then I'd be looking in my formulas for that name, but I could put, like I say, a number. I could put a calculation like average, and I could change average. Instead of averaging, I could change it to sum, the sum formula, equal sum. So it could be equal average, find that, and then I could type in, replace it with equal sum. So you could go through the whole worksheet or whole workbook and replace all of those. So let's say if I wanted to go ahead here and find that particular option, I can go to find next, and I find it, and I find there it is, Ellen Bennett. Should that be Elaine? I can say replace it, or go find next. Or I can say replace all if I'm confident that that's going to work. So that's basically your search and replace option in your Excel workbooks, searching and replacing. Now we're coming down to Format Painter. Format Painter is a pretty straightforward tool. It works in numerous ways. You can copy the color from one object or font to another. You can copy the font style and size from one font to another. You can copy the cell formatting from one cell to another. So a lot of options to use the Format Painter. And the way it works, of course, is to, first of all, what do you want to copy the information from? So here we have an object, graphic, rectangle that's hollow, and it's got the formatting around it that way. Now, it's not going to copy every single, on graphics, it's not going to copy the fact that this has got a hollow, transparent center to it, but it is going to copy the outline, which is black, and the yellow color, if I want to click on another graphic. So here I am, clicked on that. I go up to my Format Painter, click on it, and then click on the object, and there it is. It changed it to that particular format. I'll undo that. And let's say I want to do it the other way. I click on this graphic, pick my Format Painter, and click on that particular item. But it also works on formatting. So like right here, obviously these are formatted as numbers, and I could basically go up to the dollar sign as currency. I could click here, and I could click currency that way and change it in that manner. Or what I can do is pick the item that has the correct formatting, and then I can pick my paintbrush tool, and then I can just drag down over that information, and it automatically changes all of that to the currency format. Undo that a moment. Now, another thing, let's say you want to change more than one item. So, but not all of them. So like if I want to format some of these numbers with $sign with the currency, I click on that one. But now what I do is I double click the format painter. I click it twice. Now you notice there's like a little plus sign on there. And I can click here. I can click there and change the formatting one item at a time. And then when I'm done, I have to go back and click on the format painter to turn that option off so that I don't have the paintbrush attached to my cursor anymore. Let's say we want to change the formatting of this to a different font, and we can make it bold, italic, underline, and now we want all of that formatting taken out of there. We don't like it. Somebody put that in there, so we can click on this cell, pick the format painter, and click back on that cell, and it does the formatting of the font itself and changes it all back to where we want to be. So that's the basics of using your format painter. Now we've come into filter and sorting data and some more items. So here we go to sort and custom sort and filters. So we want to sort the above by clicking on a cell and then right click and choose custom sort. So let's go in here, we click here and say you want to right button click and custom sort. If we do that, we're going to get a custom sort option. Right? Go in here, go to sort, and then you can come to custom sort, and it opens up the little graphic window that I showed you there. So here's your custom sorting. And so you can change all of these around to be the type of sorting you want to do. Like we can say, okay, we want to sort this by the date owed, all right, and sort on the values. So another sort would be, we could do cell values, right? Sort on cell values. And we want to do oldest to the newest. No, we want to do it newest to the oldest. We could go there. And so then we can click OK. Or we can add a level. So we can then say after we did by date owed, we could say we want to go by client. And then by the save cell values A to Z. And then we can click OK. And it sorted all our data in there according to our custom sort and so on. So that's one way about going about it. And you can then also, if you turn this data that you have in here into like a table, so if we click here and go to insert, go to table, and then say, yeah, that's the area we want to be as a table, and it has headers. Now, once you have it in a table format, you can click on these options and you can say you want to filter the data. So we want to only see the 2018, and now we just see that data there. And then if you want to do another filter, we only want to see, click that off, we want to just see Hermes, and now that's all we're going to see. So that's another way, convert it to a table, and then use those options that you saw here. If I go down to conditional format, so we select the data in the build amount, and then we're going to choose a condition format and choose above average, and then choose your colors. So format the cells that are above average, okay? So we want to do that, and then you would basically that's the graphic that you would have, and then you could sort them based on that that option, conditional formatting. Okay, so go in here and then do your sorting, and you can do your custom sorting, and you could do your sorting custom sort, and you could choose the various levels. Now also we have this sheet here. We could get this organized better. On this particular sheet, we've got this sorted through a pivot table method. And then how to format as a table. Again, you highlight the data you want on the table, or you can just click inside. So you could do it this way, highlight all this, and then once you do that, you can say format as a table, and you've got your graphic there. If you go up your format as a table option, you can do that, or you can just click in a cell, and then once you go up that do that, you can go to insert table, and it will automatically recognize the area of that and click OK to get your table. So that's another way of getting a table together. So you have these options here of going ahead and sorting oldest to newest, or you can sort newest to oldest. So you can do your sorting in that way, or you can do the filtering in your tables. And then we have freeze pane. So freeze pane columns, you can choose a column to freeze, and then select view, and then select freeze the pane. So let's go up here and say we want to freeze these columns here. So we've got these two columns, and then we go under view, and then you can go over to freeze the panes here. Okay, freeze the first column, keep the first column visible while scrolling through the rest of the worksheet. Okay, I can just click on that and then cause first column. And now when you scroll, if we had more data and you scroll across, you're going to get that particular first column to show up. Okay, so then if you want both of the columns, then you can right button click and you can tell it that you want those to be frozen as well. And you can do that with a row and, as well. You select the view, select freeze panes. So, and then copying and pasting as transposed. Copy and paste transpose, that's an example of it there. So you can copy your data and then right button click, and you can pick copy it and then go somewhere and pick paste it as transposed. So here's your paste options here, values, formulas, and here's your transpose option here to transpose it. Okay. So those are the topics that I wanted to cover in this particular session, and I hope you picked up some tips. I'll see you next time.